Hello and welcome to part 3 of my full-length tutorial on this piece. So remember, part 2 it will be attached to this video, and part 1 if you haven't watched that one yet. For this tutorial, the last part is going to be using the channels and getting that nice foggy effect and finishing it off and adding our retouching. Okay, so we've done everything. We've got the ladybug, we've got the butterflies, the boat. So now it's just about refinements and getting that finished image. So first of all, with the boat and also the background, we want to add a bit more depth, a bit of depth of field. So what we're going to do is on that layer on the background, whatever one you're using. Remember, the images these ones are purchased, so you can't buy them. They're on Shutterstock. But I have added links to similar images in the description, which you can follow along. Again, it's just for the techniques and the process rather than the actual finished image itself. So on that, your background, I'm going to filter, blur, or blur gallery now, and I'm going to go to tilt shift. And then what we're going to do is going to bring down this bottom one, because we want all of the front bit to be visible. At least for now. We might add a bit more blur on the sides later on, but generally want that. So let's wait for that to load. I'll just pause it. Okay, and let's bring down the middle one to our horizon, or just a bit below it, and then let's bring down the blur a bit more. So we want the focus to be on the tree, the leaves and the butterflies, so we don't need to have much of this in focus. That'd be fine. The blur and the distortion, you could play with what you want. Distortion makes it a bit more shaky, blurry, a bit more maybe realistic if you want. So I'm going to leave the blur the same. Okay, so I'm going to accept that, so click OK. Maybe if you want to go to high quality, it makes it a bit better, I suppose. And then click OK. Let's see what that does. Obviously we'll see what it does, but there we go. Okay, so as you can see, what we need to do to the boat now is, because that's blurred at the back, we need to make the boat the same similar blur. I might have done the blur a bit too much, so I'm going to quickly go back and do that. Okay, so I've done that. I've just changed it a bit, just a bit less blurry, just so I can see the trees a bit more and the reflections. So because that's so blurry, the background, we need to make the boat the same. So let's convert that to a smart object, just so we can change it if we need to. Blur, and then blur, Gaussian blur, and then it's added quite a significant blur, not too much, but just so it's very similar. Like that. See what that looks like. That's not too bad. We need to do the same to the blur on the shadow, on the reflection, because you wouldn't see that very much either if the depth of field was this much. So something like that would be fine. Okay. So obviously we need to refine these trees a bit before we go any further, because we left that a bit unfinished. So let's go in with the white again. If you missed this part of me changing the color of the leaves, it's on part 1. Obviously this is not very realistic. The trees and the leaves would not be green, blue, but that's basically the theme of this piece. Obviously we need to do that there. This bit here. Okay, that's okay there. Okay, so obviously the tree is not great. We need to go through and adjust the edges, because some of the edges have been taken off. So obviously a flow of 100%. Just go around this. So you could do all this, in your own time. But I'm just going to rush this. So it's looking okay. It's just it's not the best twigs. So that was actually cut out that bit. Okay. Again with that, maybe adjust that slightly. Maybe 3. Take that out. Just don't like the look of that. Looking a bit better there. Okay. Alright, so this that's that done. So now we're going to make the actual tree branch a bit darker, because we do, as you can see on the original image, it's a bit darker and a bit more dramatic. Okay, so let's go back to that. And on the tree, I'm going to get a curves adjustment, and I'm going to copy the detail from the selection we've got on the hue and saturation there. Sorry, and I'm going to edit fill with black. Basically, that's the colored leaves. That's what the selection I've chosen. I put that on the curves, and I'm going to Control I. And that's selected. Control I to basically flip it. So the only thing selected now is, as you can see by the selection, will be my actual just the branches. So I can go on here and lower that down. I actually invert it. Sorry, slacking. Okay, so on the curves, I can just go like that, and it will only affect the actual branch. So what we're going to do is just darken it down a bit, take those highlights out, we don't want those in there, and add a bit more contrast to the tree. Also add a bit of colour into it, so let's go into the red, bring that down. There's a bit of green in there, a bit of blue, that way, and a bit of green maybe. Not too much. Go to the blue, go to the bottom. As you can see, if I go up, that adds a bit more blue into it. Don't want that much, just a bit. So it kind of matches our scene a bit more. That's okay. And then on a new layer, I'm going to attach it to it. So make a clip mask. And I'm going to edit fill with 50% grey. So that's over the whole thing now. We're going to just do a bit of a slight adjustment. It's nothing too major. So with your burn tool, go to midtones, exposure to however you feel confident in, and just start to retouch the leaf partly. Hold Alt on your keyboard to get highlights. So basically just do one side dark, the other light. Obviously the lighter side is going to be the one which is in the direction of the lights. The light's over here somewhere. So add a bit more shadows, a bit more depth. That one might get a bit of light on it. Again, let's try and separate these two leaves here by adding a bit more shadow underneath, like that, and general shadow, and a bit more light on that edge. So we've just separated those two, so we can tell where they are now. Before we couldn't really see which bit was part of which. So let's darken the actual where the twigs attach, because they look a bit fake at the moment with the little with our cut. So that looks a bit better like that. You can get rid of that edge there if you wish on the actual leaves. It's not the greatest. I'll pen tool that out. Like that. Fill with black on the actual mask. Okay, that didn't work. Fill with black like that. If you didn't want them so hard, then you might have to go through them all, do a bit of smudging. So if I actually apply this mask, you could go around using the puppet warp. So just make loads of different points on each leaf. Then you just play around with the shapes like so, or just use the get a selection. So don't apply that. Get a selection like that. Go around it, and then you go to edit, transform, and warp, and you could warp the leaves how you wish. If you want to get a bit more realistic, not so sharp, because these are a bit sharp, these ones. You can create your own direction as well for the leaf to go. mind that you have to change the color one as well. So let's do that. That's quite nice. And let's add back in that color to that, like that. Cool. Not liking that top section. It's a bit dark on that leaf. So we could either fix that or just make a quick simple fix. Get the color over there, get a low flow, and just go over that. Didn't really like what that was doing. It was making that part of the image look a bit dark. It's not too bad. A bit more in there. Always lighten it up on this dodge layer, like so. If you go to your dodge and go to shadows, that'll take out the shadows for you. That looks a bit better. Okay, so it's the same again, just go through it all. You could also add a bit of shadow underneath these. Okay, and on these leaves again, just add a bit more depth to these because they're looking a bit flat. You could even, if you want to be really taking the details in, then just go on each of the lines of the leaves and add those back in. It'll be a much better effect, and it will look really nice, like so. So add the light and then add the soft next to it, the dark. So add the dark and then the light, dark and then light. Holding Alt on my keyboard. It's not the greatest there. Okay, so now we're going to add it to the other leaves. So we need to lighten these a bit more. Definitely look a bit flat. So just I've done a light edge and a dark edge, light edge, dark edge. I'm just rushing now because we're getting on the time. But please do not rush when you're actually doing it. So you'll get things like that happen. Then midtones instead instead of shadows. Let's bring down those midtones a bit. Again, let's try and get that edge coming through underneath. Bit of leaf shadow. And then let's add a bit more down here. See how that looks? That's quite good. So a bit of light here and there. Bit of shadow through the middle. Bit of light, bit of shadow. Okay. And this actually adds some to the actual branch, so let's go to burn now, midtones. So if the direction the light's coming from this way, from the left, we want to add some shadow to the right hand side. Like so. Okay, so I could do this forever, but let's just quickly do that. And the highlights will be on the other side, so you can add them in as well. So zoom in, take your time. Yeah, I'm not taking my time, I'm just doing this really quickly for you. Just want to get to the main part. So shadow, highlight, until your twigs are looking a bit better looking. Start to get effects like that going on, and it looks a lot nicer. It might start to look a bit, a bit 3D made, a bit CG generated, but you get a nice more depth in your shadows and your highlights. Okay, so that should be okay. Add a bit more light there, and then we want to add quite a lot of light at the bottom. Dark, sorry, bit of shadow. Okay, so that looks alright. Obviously, if it was in like a proper piece, I would be doing, I would, focus a lot more on these leaves because they're not perfect. I would add a lot more shadows, detail, and make this cut selection a lot better than I did in the first episodes. As you can see, there's a lot of errors here. So make sure you go through all that when you're doing it properly and not get this like little 2D look that we're getting. So this butterfly over here as well, I need to definitely adjust. Just make that look like he's actually on it, like so. You obviously add the feet shadows as well if you wanted to. But it'd be super realistic. That's that. So now we're going to add just a small shadow at the bottom of the tree. So let's do that. So I'm going to add a new layer, get your black. And I'm just going to get a soft brush and then just go like that. Zoom in a bit, bring that down. Add a bit more there. And then above it as well, just on its own layer, or you could just do it on a new 50% grey layer, get a soft light, and then let's put that above the patch, or above it all. We could do our own dodge and burn layer above it all, and then let's start to add a bit more shadow to the bottom here. That tree definitely needs a bit more blending in to the scene a bit more, like that. That'll be fine. That's okay. So let's get that layer again. So if you want to make something stand out, just put shadows each side of it, and it will definitely make it stand out a bit more. And highlights, shadows, highlights. A bit of leaf shadow here on the grass. Like that. You could put the shadow of the actual butterfly, but it wouldn't show up, I believe, at that height. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so now is the main part, which is using the channels. So this is a kind of tricky part. So what I'm going to do now is go to the channels. I'll delete that old one I did. So with the blue, duplicate it, right click, duplicate. So I'm going to just hide the other blue. And then Control L, levels, Command L. Bring up the midtones, bring up the shadows quite a lot. Something like that. And then we're actually going to blur this whole layer. It's a bit unorthodox, but I assure you this is how you make that blurry look. So let's do that. Something like that. Be okay. And then let's Control and then hit on the thumbnail, and it'll select the highlights. Go to layers, get curves, and on that, Control I, and it will invert that thumbnail. Make sure we're back on RGB, turn off all those. And then with this, as you can see, when we go down, it'll start to add a bit of like a fogginess to it. So let's see what we can do. So go to blue channel, bring down the blue on the right, bring it down on the side, and you start to get a sort of fogginess to it. Okay, and then RGB again. So that's the first stage. Okay, so we might even be able to increase the blurriness of this if we increase if we actually add a levels adjustment to the actual the mask. So image adjustments and then levels, or Control L. Let's see if we can make it a bit more blurrier by increasing some of these settings. So that's not too bad. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to add another one which is similar. So go to channels, and then I'm going to get a blue again, duplicate, hide everything else, and then let's add another L levels, but then just do it slightly, and Command and then hit on your thumbnail, or Control and hit on your thumbnail, get this highlights, layers, make sure you turn that back on, and then hit another curves. So this time I'm going to just go to blue and add in a bit of nice green haze to it. Possibly play with your RGBs as well. Add a bit more light if you want. Okay, see what that looks like. It's not looking too bad. But I don't like the grass at the bottom. It's a bit colourful, a bit saturated from my liking. So let's add a hue and saturation. Lower that saturation down quite a lot. Something like there. And then I'm gonna just mask out the sky. Bring that back in. Maybe you can use a gradient tool, that'll be fine. Let's try black. And it brings back the sky. So we could just add this to the bottom layer, really, to above the grass itself. So add back in some of the color, but not all of it. I don't like the oranginess in the bottom. I'm also going to add a just a blank layer of color. So make a new layer, edit, fill, and then choose a color, match it to one of these colors in the wings. So something like that. And then change the layer style to color, and then bring up the opacity a bit. Not too much, just enough to make the bottom look okay, the leaves basically, the grass. So this is looking good. I'm going to add in a black and white layer as well first, because I want to desaturate it slightly. This is basically like a hue and saturation. There's many ways to do this. You don't have to use this layer. Opacity right down. Just bring it up a little bit. Just a tad, not too much. I don't want all the color in there. Something like that would be fine. 7%. So that's the original. So then I'm going to add in a photo filter. So photo filter, and then go down to yellow. Bring the color right down, and bring it up to about 5. And then I've noticed the boat for some reason is looking a bit yellow. I'm not sure why it. I thought we changed that, but let's change that. So hue saturation on the boat layer, saturation right down, and let's bring up those blues a bit because it's looking quite standout-ish. We don't want that. So the shadows as well. Oh, that's a bit too much on there. So shadows, add a bit of blue, or even yellow and a bit of green in there as well. That's not looking too bad. Add a bit of black. And we're also going to add a exposure and for the gamma as well. So check that, bring that exposure a bit, bring up the gamma. So gamma makes it a bit more foggy as well. And bring up the exposure a bit more as well. I'm going to add 0.0001% of offset, just so it's not so contrasty. It's looking good. So last thing we could do is add in a new layer, edit, fill, and then 50% grey. And let's add a little border to our vignette or vignette. So get your burn tool, midtones, and just add a bit around the edges. Again, added a bit of light to the top bit if you want, over here, maybe on the leaves, or maybe just in the center generally, like so. That's okay. And a last step we can do, which you would need a plugin for, which I did, as you can see on this layer. It's a bit more dynamic, but I'll try and use the HDR filter instead, see if we can get the same effect. So looking a bit more saturated. So this, bring a bit of saturation back in. I know I blacked it out a bit, but let's bring a bit of vibrance. Let's try vibrance instead. So vibrance. Looking pretty good. It's not too much. Bit of saturation as well. See what that looks like. Okay, that's looking good. So now I'm just going to make a visible stamp layer. So I do this the really hard way. I know there's an easier way to do it. But just group all the objects. Project. Naming it project. Duplicate it, and then I'm going to Control E. That's a silly way to do it, but I can't get out of the habit. So we got that stamped layer. Basically, that's like a flattened version of our project. And then I'm going to make 3 different layers here. So I'm going to Control J, Control J. So I'm going to add each of them to soft light, apart from the bottom one. So the bottom one's going to be overlay. So overlay. And then we're going to hide it first. Actually, we're going to hide the top 2. So let's do that first. So it'll look horrible on the screen in a minute, but don't worry. And then change these other ones to soft light. You'll see why in a second. As you see, it looks horrible on the screen at the moment, but don't mind that. So I'm going to unhide these. I'm going to hide these layers, these top 2. Okay. My computer's working overdrive because I got this other document open. Okay, so on the bottom one, this one's on overlay. We're going to go to filter, other, and then high pass. This is just a general sharpen of the image. So we can put this at 1 point. So it's on 1 point now, so I click OK. That basically just sharpens the image. It's a good way to do it, because you've got a little bit of control over it instead of just hitting filter or sharpen. That's that one. So let's make the make the edges a lot more crisp. The second one, which will be on soft light. Again, go to filter, other, high pass. And then this one, let's do 1/3 the way up. Okay. There's a bit more detail in there. Or possibly even a bit more than that. 25, click OK. And then on the last one, we're going to go again, but we're just going to go all the way up to the top to add a bit more shadows and highlights, really. So there you have it. That's our finished image. There's also another way which I did it on the original image, which I'll show you now. So I'm going to cancel this out now, so we don't need this. We've already got it over here. So what I did on this finished piece here, obviously there's a few more bits and bobs that I've done, bit of fog on that, which all I did was a new layer, get your brush, just to finish it off, and I added a bit of just some general splodges of white with a low flow and low opacity, just a bit more smokiness to it. So a few tools which I use as well to make it a bit more dynamic, like the finishing touches. So if I get one of the images, well, before, so I'll take that out, and then I'll just group all this, and I'll show you a plugin I use. Okay, I need to bring back those two though. Okay, so the technique I'm going to use, or the filter or the plugin, is either Topaz Labs or Nik software, which is Color Effects Pro. Color Effects Pro one I would use, I'm not going to open this one because I'm going to use Topaz Labs for this one, but I would use the Detail Enhancer and it will get the same effect. So on Topaz Labs, go to Clarity or even Detail, either one. Let's just try Clarity. They're similar, Clarity and Detail, but Clarity just pops like the contrasts, really. So as you can see, you got these tools here. So I'm going to use the mid contrast, the micro contrast, low contrast, and medium. So let's bring that up slightly. You see it's already adding quite a big effect, and bring the contrast on the low and the high contrast. See what we get. So it adds back in a lot. So you need to decrease the black level and try and add in a bit more. It starts to get, basically sharpens the image in a strange way. It just adds more contrast, takes away the shadows. So you can get quite a nice effect if you do it properly, if you work at it. Like that, not too bad. Or I'll show you the one on Color Effects Pro. Okay, so filter. You'll have to install Color Effects Pro using Nik software if you want to get these. But I'd highly advise you to get these. They're very good tools. So filter, Nik software, and Color Effects Pro. It's a very good plugin. So wait for that to load. Okay, as you can see, this is the plugin I use, but I don't want it that much, so let's take that off. And I go to all and detail extractor. So, and then I bring up the contrast, bring up the detail, bring up the contrast, bring up the detail, bring up the detail. So you can do a lot to this. Add filter. We could add glamour glow, which is quite nice. This is basically fogginess, the same sort of effect I did with the channels. So we could add that. And then I would also use tonal contrast at the bottom here. So bring these right down. And just add them in as you go. So a bit more shadow, I need more shadows. I need more midtones, I need more highlights. Or less highlights even. So you can get a really like HDRI effect, or you can just go subtle, which I like to do. So that's that. So that's the finished image. I hope you like this tutorial. Please leave a like and comment, and subscribe for more tutorials to come. Thank you very much. My name's been Lewis Moorhead. It still will be, I believe. So visit fludesign.com, and I will see you later. Bye bye.